Hey guys, welcome to Patriot Day presentation. You might be thinking, Ms. Jessica, why are we listening to the Patriot Day presentation if we are not from the United States? What is Patriot Day anyway? Well, let me explain to you that you don't need to be a citizen of the United States to remember Patriot Day. This is the day that we remember September 11th when the Torres Gemelas fell down after being attacked by terrorists. You don't need to be an American to learn about Patriot Day because Patriot Day affected the whole entire world. Because it was a day that one of the safest countries was attacked by one of the most dangerous people, and we didn't know what to do that day. It's really important to remember this day, you guys. Not because it's fun to remember a sad day, and we don't celebrate remembering a sad day. So you might think, but Ms. Jessica, then why do you have a day called Patriot Day where it's just a day to remember something very, very sad that happened? Well, just so you understand exactly what happened on the day, it is the day that the Torres Gemelas fell, but also that two other planes crashed that day from bad people from the Este, the East, that hate the United States. That day, 3,000 people of the Americans died. So why is it important to remember a day that's so sad? Not to make us more sad, obviously, but it does. Every time that we remember Patriot Day, it makes us sad. This day happened 19 years ago, so you guys weren't born, but we believe that it's very important to remember this day. One, because it gives honor to those that gave their lives that day, the heroes, because there were many heroes that gave their lives, sacrificed their lives to help and save other people. Guys, a lot more people could have died on Patriot Day, but they didn't because of the heroes in the United States. And we say thank you to those people. Obviously, those people aren't here to say thank you to them cara a cara, but their families are here. Their children are here and still living. Their mothers and dads might be here. Their husbands and wives might be here. People that knew them might still be here on earth that we can say thank you and honor those people. Number two, we remember this sad day because it reminds us that living in a country where we have our religious freedom, meaning that we can worship God the way that we believe we should worship God. We have the freedom, the libertad to do that. That's vale la pena to fight for. It's worth fighting for. You guys also have religious freedom here, and you should be very agradecidos that we do. That we can talk about God in school, that we can read the Bible in school, because in a lot of countries in the East, people hate us for that. Number three, we remember a very sad day because we don't want to repeat what happened. So we learn how to prevenir it from happening again. That's why we study history, so you don't repeat the bad things. And number four, and the most important, we remember Patriot Day because we remember that God is fiel. He's faithful to us, that He helped us on that day pasar through a time that was very, very bad from enemigos that caused a lot of dolor in the people of the United States. But God was always there to help us and to help prevent more people from dying and to give strength to the heroes to do what they were supposed to do. So I want to share with you on my heart today what Patriot Day is. What happened on the day in the United States so that you can also remember to honor those people that give their lives for other people. To be thankful for living in a country where you get to worship God without getting in trouble or getting killed for it. Number three, that you learn how important history is. And number four, that you can always remember the faithfulness of God in any bad situation. Okay, so let's learn it today. Okay, in this presentation, you're going to need to have out this piece of paper from your binder, this piece of paper from your binder with the questions on it, and this piece of paper from your binder with this part. Okay? Because we're going to be talking about what happened on 9/11, questions questions about that day and the timeline of the day. So what happened on 9/11? Well, just to tell you about my personal experience with 9/11. I understand it was 19 years ago, so you guys weren't born, but I was. And I remember that day super, super well, which is not an easy thing to remember because it actually makes me very sad every time I do. I was in octavo grado in 8th grade. I was in history class. It was the morning time and I was at school. I was doing homework in class, and in those classes we had a TV in every classroom. But we didn't have it on during the day. We just had it on if the office told us to, if like la dirección said to turn it on because they had an anuncio. But there was another teacher down the hall in the corredor who came into the classroom really, really quickly. And he said to our teacher, "You need to turn on the TV. Something is happening in New York." Okay, he immediately turned on the TV and he saw that one of the torres in New York was on fire because a plane had crashed into it. Well, at that time, everyone thought that it must have been an accident. They didn't know how because that's a pretty big accident to happen and it never happened before, but why would anybody crash into the Twin Towers? While we were watching it and we were watching the noticias and we were watching people talk about it, the second plane came and crashed into the second tower. And that's at the exact time that the whole world knew that it wasn't an accident, that it was done a propósito, that somebody was attacking the United States using planes. After that, another plane crashed in Pennsylvania that they thought was on the way to the Washington, D.C. But heroes were on that plane, you guys. Airways that prevented the plane from getting to its destination. And I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. And then there was a fourth plane that went into the Pentagon in Virginia, very, very close to the capital of the United States in Washington, D.C., where the military works. Eventually, in school, they made us turn off the TVs because they said it was very traumatic for us, como causando trauma, to watch all this happening to our country, and we were still very joven, very young. So, we turned it off. But when we came home, my mom and dad explained what had happened, and they took me to church, to un culto especial para oración. We were praying for the people that died that day, for their families. We were praying for the people still atrapados in the torres. Because what happened, guys, is that the torres fell. Nobody knew that if a plane hit the torre at the top, that eventually the torre would fall. But it did, atrapando miles de personas abajo de la torre. So we were praying for those people that they could be rescued. We were praying for the bomberos and for the policía that were going to go and try to help those people because, guys, from all over the United States, bomberos came from different estados, from the sur, from the este, from the oeste, from the norte. They came to New York to pull people out of the torres where they were still living, atrapados there for like a week. A lot of those policía, a lot of those bomberos died that day. Died those days trying to get other people out of the torres because the torre would fall more and more and more and the cement would fall on them and kill them and crush them when they didn't know. But they knew going to the torres, they were putting their life in riesgo, and they were willing to do that for the people of their country. So I want to explain to you kind of why that happened and when that happened and what happened with today's project, okay? So get out the sheet and we're going to start reading. Okay, so let's look at the words to know that we need to help understand what this article is about. The first word is terrorists. Everyone say terrorists. This is a people or group who use violence in an attempt to achieve their political or religious goals. Okay, so there's a lot of groups, especially in the este of the world, that form groups of violencia, of violence, to attack other groups that they are no están de acuerdo with, okay? Like, for instance, if they believe in the Islam religion, we believe in God, Jehovah, we're Christians, they hate us for that, so they want to attack us. That's what terrorist groups do, okay? They're very scary people. They causar terror in other people. Look at the next one. Hijacked. Everyone say hijacked. This is to take control of something by force in a very bad way, okay? So the terrorists hijacked the planes. They took control of them in a bad way. Democratic. Everyone say democratic. Democratic is the word to do with a form of government in which the people choose their leaders in elections. That's by vote. We are democratic countries, the United States and Honduras, because we vote for our leaders. The terrorist groups over in the S, they hate that. They don't believe that people should choose their leaders. They don't believe that we're smart enough to choose our own leaders and that they should be chosen in a different way. Dictator. Everyone say dictator. This is someone who has complete control of a country, often ruling it unjustly. That means sin justicia. Dictators are people that don't listen to anybody else. They do what they want to do, which a lot of times causes problems, and sometimes they even kill their own people. Cabinet. Cabinet is a word for gavetero, but that's not what I was talking about here. Cabinet is a group of advisors for the head of the government. Cabinet is your consejeros in the government. So the United States president has consejeros, and they're called his cabinet. Okay, now we're ready to read the article. So let's read specifically what happened on that day. Everyone put your finger on the paragraph that says, on September 11th, 2001. On September 11th, 2001, terrorists, remember those are groups of people that use violence, attacked the United States. They hijacked 4 planes, hijacked means take control of, in mid-flight. That means in the middle of their vuelo, you guys, these people took out cuchillos and took over the capitán of the plane, the piloto, and all the other people so that they could take control of the plane. The terrorists who flew 2 of the planes into 2 skyscrapers at the World Trade Center in New York City. Those were the torres. The impact caused the buildings to catch fire and collapse. Colapsar, right? Another plane destroyed part of the Pentagon. This was the U.S. military headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. The 4th plane crashed into Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Listen to that plane, you guys, because that is where there was a bunch of heroes on that plane. Officials believe that the terrorists on that plane intended to destroy either the White House or the U.S. Capitol. Passengers on the plane fought the terrorists and prevented them from reaching their goal. In all, nearly 3,000 people were killed in the 9/11 attacks. So what were they heroes for? That plane that crashed into Pennsylvania, which is another estado of the United States, was probably on its way to the White House, to destroy the White House where the president lives. The people on the plane, there was a man who heard the plan, that they knew something was about to happen because they had just heard what happened in the Torres Gemelas. So he organized a group of people on the plane very quietly. They were going to take control of the bad guys who took control of the plane. What was going to happen? Do you know that this guy, the good guy that organized the other good guys, called his family that day and said he wouldn't be home again because he knew he was going to die that day? Which makes me so sad to think about how it was hard for his family to hear him say that. But he was a hero that day, you guys, because he gave his life so that other thousands of people didn't have to die. But he knew that he was sacrificing his life and everybody on the plane. Because what he was going to do is he was going to organize the group of people to take over the bad guys and crash the plane straight into the ground, which would kill all of the people instantly. But he would be preventing thousands of people dying in the edificio, in the building that they were going to crash into, the bad guys. So he saved a lot of Americans that day. But he did it giving his own life. On that day, 3,000 people died in the United States. The people on the floor planes and the people in the buildings, like the Torres Gemelas and the Pentagon. But it could have been more people. But God gave the valentia to this man to save thousands of people. Okay, let's look at the next paragraph. Okay, put your finger on the paragraph that says a total of 19 terrorists. A total of 19 terrorists hijacked the 4 planes on 9/11. All of them were from nations in the Middle East. They belonged to a terrorist group called Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden. Everyone say Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is one of the worst terrorist groups in the world, but now there's a worse one called ISIS. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are both from the East, where we've actually been learning in history class, where civilization began with Mesopotamia, right, in Iraq, where a lot of people think too that that's even where the Garden of Eden might have been, where God created Adam and Eve, very close to there. It's very sad that the place that God started the whole entire world is a place where they totally rechazaron a Dios. They completely rejected God. And now they hate Christians for loving God. And this is where the terrorist group came. Okay, keep reading. Look what it says. Al-Qaeda practices an extreme version of the religion of Islam. Islam does not believe in God. They believe in a God called Allah, which is not a real God. The group is intensely opposed to the United States and other Western democratic nations. They are especially against the military presence of these countries in Arab nations. Since the group's creation by bin Laden in the late 1980s, Al-Qaeda has helped coordinate and fund numerous bombings worldwide, so they use bombas to attack other people. In this case, they use planes. Let's see what the third paragraph said. Look at the paragraph that says, in October. In October 2001, the U.S. and its allies invaded Afghanistan, where Al-Qaeda was based. The extreme Islamic group that ran Afghanistan's government, known as the Taliban, was protecting bin Laden and following Al-Qaeda to run training camps in the country. U.S.-led forces soon brought down the Taliban. They are still working to help rebuild and stabilize the nation. Since 2001, many Al-Qaeda members have been captured or killed. On May 1st, 2011, U.S. troops killed bin Laden where he was hiding in Pakistan. So what does this all mean? Afghanistan was where Al-Qaeda was from. Afghanistan is a country near Iraq and Syria and Iran. It's in the Middle East. So the United States went over there to find this man and to save the country from these terrorists. And they're still over there today trying to help them. So even more U.S. people are giving their lives, even today, you guys, to try to help people fight against these terrorist groups. But they did find the man who was in charge of 9/11, bin Laden, and they did kill him. Okay, bin Laden is not the only big terrorist or terrorist group, Al-Qaeda, over in the Middle East. Look what it says in this paragraph. The U.S. invaded. The U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003. Then President George W. Bush and other U.S. leaders believed that the country's dictator, Saddam Hussein, remember, dictator is the one that leads without listening to the people and sometimes hurts his people, was hiding terrible weapons, armas, that could be given to terrorists. Hussein was captured and later put to death by an Iraqi court. No weapons of mass destruction were found. So they went in there, you guys, to take this guy out because they believed he was a very bad man, but they also believed he was escondiendo armas, but they never found the armas. Following 9/11, that means después de 9/11, the U.S. government took many steps to try to make the country safer. It tightened security at airports and in public buildings. Now we have mucha seguridad, you guys. Like in the airports, it's very hard to get through them without being checked a lot to make sure that there's not going to be any more terrorists that come in and out of the country. A new cabinet-level department, the Department of Homeland Security, was created. It works to protect the United States from terrorism. Okay, so let's look at the questions and the timeline that helps us better understand what happened on 9/11. Okay, make sure you have out your questions. That looks like this. Okay, by the way, why do I say 9/11? Because in the United States, we don't use the day and then the month. We use the month and then the day. 9 is September. 11 is the day. September 11th, 9/11. Okay, you're going to answer these questions, but I'm going to help you understand what they're talking about. Number 1 is what happened on 9/11. ¿Qué pasó? Give me one sentence resumen of what happened. You can stop the video now and do that and then keep moving, or listen to me explain them and then do them after. Number 2, how did America respond to 9/11? That means, like, what did the people do to save the people from the Torres or to protect the people? What did America do after después de 9/11? Number 3, how many planes were involved? How many planes were there in 9/11? I told you guys that, so I can't tell you again. Number 4, where did the first 2 planes crash? And number 5, where did the 2 other planes crash? If you don't remember, in the first paragraph of this one, it will help you. Number 6, where was the plane that the passengers prevented from reaching the goal heading? Remember, there was one plane that the heroes took the plane down so it didn't get to their goal. It's in the first paragraph. Make sure you look there. And number 7, this is an opinion question. There's no right or wrong answer. If you lived in New York on that day, what would your feelings be? Your sentimientos, guys, or your emociones. And what would you do? Guys, on that day, New York was a very scary place to be. When the Torres fell, all the dust and the polvo and pieces of the edificio were flying in the air and hitting people and killing people. And the polvo was so thick that it actually got into the pulmones of people and killed them later because they couldn't breathe well. And some people even today have cancer for being in New York on that day when the Torres fell. Okay, now we're going to talk about true or false. So go ahead and do this with me right now. Okay? True or false, verdadero or falso. Al-Qaeda group supports the U.S. and other democratic nations. That means that they like them. Does Al-Qaeda like the U.S. and other democratic nations? Next one. Weapons of mass destruction, those are the armas, were found in Iraq. Ellos encontraron las armas en Iraq, verdadero or falso. Number 3, the U.S. invaded Afghanistan October 2001. Look in your thing if you don't remember. Number 4, on May 1st, 2011, troops, those are the military, killed Saddam Hussein. Number 5, the Department of Justice was created after 9/11. That was the cabinet. Remember the consejeros. But was it called the Department of Justice? True or false? Look in your article. Next one. Saddam Hussein was the president of Iraq. Next one. A dictator is the leader of a democracy. So is a dictator the leader of a democratic nation like us? Do we have dictators as our leaders? Next one. The U.S. military headquarters are in New York. Is the military in New York, or was it somewhere else that was attacked? Check your thing. Next one. In the USA, a new department was created to fight against terrorism. Okay, new consejeros were they created. And then the last one. Al-Qaeda is responsible for multiple terrorist attacks all around the world, worldwide. Okay, now let's do our timeline. I think this is a very important timeline to understand because this day was packed full of scary, scary things. And I know that you weren't born yet, but it is important to know how hard it was for everyone to to watch what was happening in the world. Okay, so stop the video and cut out your squares. We're gonna glue them together. Make sure that you have some glue, okay? Okay, the first one we need to find is the one that comes after 8:30, okay? So what time comes after 8:30 but before 9 o'clock? What time up there? This one, 8:46. 8:46 says, Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. So that was Torre number 1. Okay, glue that on there. Now find the time that is right after 9 o'clock, but before 9:30. It was 9:03. Flight 175 crashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. There's a picture of it crashing into the second one where everyone realized it wasn't an accident. Okay, I put the next time up there for you is 9:37, right after 9:30. That one says Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon. This was the building in Virginia where the military headquarters are. Okay, next find the time right before 10 o'clock. Right before 10 o'clock. That's 9:59. It says the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. Guys, that was a surprise to everyone that it started to fall. And now started to put more people in peligro and kill all those people inside or atrapar them. Next, find the time right after 10 o'clock. Right after 10 o'clock. Flight 93, the famous one with the heroes that crashes into the field in Pennsylvania. My mom and my sister went to that place after, where they have a cementerio. They have graves for the people there that died that day. And the last one is 10:28. Look at that, all before lunch, you guys. All before almorzar that day. All these bad things happen, killing thousands of people in the United States. 10:28, the North Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. And if you can see the picture, people are running in the streets trying to get away. So guys, that's why we say it's a day that we'll never forget. It had heroes. It was a tragedy. In New York, in Pennsylvania, and Virginia, and all around the world, where bomberos came to give their lives, policia came to give their lives to save other people. Remember, why do we remember sad days? One, to say thank you to the heroes that gave their lives because their families are still living or people that love them are still living. And to remember us to be heroes too. Number two, to remember that living in a country where we can worship God is a privilegio and bendición. Number three, so that we can do things to not repeat the past. And number four, so that we can say thank you to God for getting us through very, very hard times. Thank you guys for working so hard today. I hope that it's a day that you won't forget either, because we need to be heroes for our country as well. Maybe there's going to be a day where God asks you to do something very, very hard to save somebody else. And we need to be willing to do that because God sacrificed His Son for us. Love you guys very much. Have a good day.